Look at the next step in algebra then. This time we're going to be looking at expanding brackets. Now, when we have an equation, or a variable, or a coefficient, whatever, inside brackets, and there's something next to it, and that again can be a number, a variable, an equation, what that's saying is the figures inside the bracket are multiplied by whatever is outside. So although we don't draw a multiplication sign, the two have to be multiplied together. And that's usually very important when we're trying to calculate solutions, because we might have to get certain variables on their own, and when they're tucked away inside a bracket, we can't separate them from all the other numbers. So we quite often have to what we call expand a bracket, which is to get it from inside of the bracket, and to cancel off this multiplication. So here, for instance, I've got an x variable inside brackets and a number 5 outside. A simple starting point. Basically, there's an invisible time sign between that 5 and brackets. So what this actually means is it's 5 times whatever's inside the bracket. So the equivalent of that is 5x, because 5 times whatever the x in the brackets is 5x. And remember, in algebra, when you've got a number next to a variable, again, there's a number sign, there's a time sign between the two. So essentially there was no point to the bracket in the last picture, but we'll see when it gets more complicated, they're actually valuable symbols. For instance, this one by here, now we've actually got x plus 1 inside the brackets, and it's all being multiplied by the number 4. Now, a common mistake that people make here is they multiply the x by the 4, but they forget about the 1. Take, for instance, if I had x is the number 3. Well, 3 plus 1 inside the brackets is 4, and 4 times 4 is 16. When I expand this bracket, as I said, the common mistake is that people multiply the x by 4 but forget about the 1. So if I multiplied the 4 by 3, remember we're saying that x is 3, 4 times 3 is 12, then add the 1 on is 13, so we got a very much different answer. When we did 4 times 3 plus 1, we got 16. When we do 4 times 3 plus 1, we get 13. So it's very important to follow a rule in that we multiply everything that's separated by pluses or minuses by the number outside. So in this case, we've got two, a variable and a coefficient that are separated by the plus sign. And we have to multiply each of them by the number 4. So I'm going to multiply the x by 4, keep in my plus sign, and then I'm going to multiply the 1 by 4. And that's going to give me the answer 4x plus 4. Later on, we'll see we can actually do this in the reverse to tidy it up. It's called factorizing, but for the moment, we're just looking at how to expand the brackets. Here's another example. We've got 3 times 2x plus 4 minus y. So the first thing I'm going to have to do is look at which things are separated by pluses or minuses. We've got a 2x by here, 4 by here, and a y by here. Now notice how I've underlined the sign as well. You can think about this as 4 as a plus 4, a positive 4, and this y is a negative y. Now, the reason why it's important to do this is because if we're multiplying by a negative number outside, then it could change the symbols in front of the variables and numbers. So let's have a look then. We're going to have to do 2x times 3, because we're going to multiply this by 3. The positive 4 by 3, multiplying this one by 3, and then the minus y by 3, this variable here by 3. And that's going to give us the answer 2x times 3 is 6x, 4 times 3 is 12, and then minus y times 3 is minus 3y.
Okay, now we go in a little bit more complicated. We've actually got a different variable inside to the outside. We've got a y outside and x inside. We're actually multiplying not just by 3 now, we're multiplying by 3y. But you can multiply variables together. We don't necessarily get a number, but we can expand it. So I follow the same rule. Remember, it's all the same rules and patterns. In this case, the two things separated by a plus or a minus are 2x, and then we've got the 4, which we can consider a positive 4. I'm going to multiply the 2x by 3y and the 3y by 4. Now, how we multiply a y and an x together? Remember that when you've got two variables next to each other, or a variable and a number next to each other, it's saying that there's an invisible times sign between the two. So for instance here, if I've got xy, that's saying there is an x times a y. And when we look at this part of the equation in the middle, you can see that we're multiplying y by x if we forget the numbers for the moment. So all I've done is written it down. Although I swapped the two letters here, you don't have to. It could be yx. All I've done is I have written it in a different format. Instead of saying y times x or x times y, I've just said yx or xy. I can't simplify it any further because they are different variables. Remember that when you're multiplying values together, if they're only separated by times or division signs, then we can simply swap them around. So for instance here, in this first part, what I've actually got is 3 times y times 2 times x. And I've just simply swapped the y and the 2. So rather than having 3 times y times 2 times x, I've got 3 times 2, which is 6, times y times x, which is xy or yx. So 3, all I've done is multiplied the two numbers together, giving me 6, and then multiplied the two variables together, giving me yx, or in the case I've written down xy. The second one then, we've got 3y times 4. Well, 3y, if I got 3 of something and I multiply by 4, I've then got 12 of it, so it becomes 12y. I don't have to worry about another variable because there is no other variable. Okay, so here's another one, 3x times 6x plus y minus 2. Now, the difference here we can see is that there is the same variable inside and outside. We've also got a different variable, but at this point, with the 6x, both the 3x and the 6x have an x in them. So let's see what difference that makes. Well, first of all, same rule. I look at all the things that are separated by pluses or minus. We've got a 6x, we've got a positive y, and we've got a negative 2. We're going to do 3x times 6x, 3x times y, and 3x, or minus 3x times minus 2. It should be a positive 3x, apologies. That is going to give us 3 times 6 is 18. Now x times x, any number multiplied by itself is a square of that number. Remember, if you can't remember from square numbers, 2 times 2 would be 2 squared, 3 times 3 would be 3 squared, and so on. So x times x is actually x squared. So 3x times 6x gives us 18x squared. I've multiplied the 3 and the 6, and I've multiplied the x and the x. But I don't have to write it as xx, although technically that would be right. Instead, I write it as x squared. Go on to the next one then. We're going to multiply 3 by, well, we haven't got a number in front of the y by here, but there is an invisible 1 because it's one lot of y. So 3 times 1 gives me 3, and then x times y gives me xy. And then on to 3 times minus 2 giving me minus 6. And there's no letter over here, so we'll just have the x. And there's the answer. 18x squared plus 3xy minus 6x.
Okay, so another little thing we can get caught out on is if we've got a negative number outside. So if we're multiplying the inside of this bracket by -4, particularly when there's a negative number inside as well. So let's go through the rules then. The things that are separated by the plus and the minus, we've got a 2x, we've got a 5 here, but because there's a negative in front of it, we're gonna consider it a -5. We're going to do -4 times 2x, because we've got to multiply everything inside by the -4. And then -4 times -5. We're multiplying the -4 outside by the 5 with a negative in front of it by here. So -4 times 2 is -8. Remember, if you can't remember your working with negative numbers, the first couple of videos I think were on negative numbers. And then because there's just the x here, and x times, the number is just simply x. So -4 times 2x gives us -8x's. Now then, coming to the second one then, we've got a -4 times a -5. What we have to remember with that, back to our negative numbers, is that a minus times a minus is a positive. So instead of writing down -20, we're going to write down +20. So by multiplying the -4 outside by the -5 inside, it becomes +20, and we've got -8x plus 20. And those are all the little complicated tricks and traps you might come across when expanding brackets.